When the FBI raided his bedroom at 3:14 a.m., they weren't just arresting a teenage hacker. They were trying to silence a mind that, a decade later, would design the very tool that banks now rely on to stop cybercrime. But what no one, not even him, expected was just how far his code would take him. In the crumbling edges of East Detroit, where abandoned buildings outnumber schools, Jalen Rivers grew up surrounded by silence, rust, and survival. His mother worked double shifts at a nursing home, his father vanished before he turned 5, and most kids in his neighborhood didn't talk about dreams. They talked about getting out. But Jalen had a secret. In a dim, second-hand bedroom with chipped paint and faulty heating, he had a beat-up Dell laptop rescued from a school dumpster and a fascination with what he called the logic of control. He taught himself coding at 14 through pirated YouTube tutorials and forum threads. By the age of 16, he could spoof IP addresses, mimic browser fingerprints, and slip through firewalls unnoticed. He wasn't in it for money, not at first. Jalen hacked for the thrill, for curiosity, for power. But at 19, curiosity turned into a mistake. One night, he tunneled into a misconfigured firewall at Civic One Credit Union, a small financial institution he thought no one would care about. He didn't steal anything, didn't change anything, just wandered around the back end of the system. But he'd triggered a security flag, and the FBI was watching. On a rainy September morning, federal agents burst into Jalen's home, waking the entire block. He was arrested on charges of unauthorized access to protected systems, wire fraud, and possession of malicious software tools. He wore shackles to court. The judge called him a quiet threat with potential for great harm. Prosecutors painted him as a dangerous young cybercriminal. He was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. At Midway Federal Correctional Facility, Jalen kept his head down. He had no interest in fights, cliques, or prison politics. He had one obsession: finding a way to rebuild his life. Using time in the prison library, he began to handwrite code on ruled paper. No internet, no IDs, just a worn-down pencil and raw memory. A sympathetic librarian, Ms. Ellison, noticed him, and after months of quiet persistence, smuggled in outdated textbooks. Linux Security Essentials, AI and Network Defense, Python Crash Course, 2010 edition. Jalen started drafting something he called Gatelock, a program that didn't just defend against threats, but predicted them. Inspired by how guards anticipated fights before they happened, he envisioned software that could forecast cyber intrusions based on behavior patterns. By year 3, he had built full mock-ups on paper and learned enough about encryption to write an entire cipher system in his head. In 2016, Jalen was released. No fanfare, no welcome party, just a bus ticket, a halfway house, and a criminal record that shut down every job application before it even opened. He lived in a friend's basement, unfinished concrete, exposed wiring, a single mattress. But he still had one thing: the handwritten Gatelock blueprint, now spanning 200 pages. He traded freelance coding gigs for ramen money. When clients ghosted him, he built instead. He coded at night, studied during the day, and rebuilt Gatelock from memory, this time on an actual machine. When he tried to pitch his product to venture capitalists, he was met with thin smiles and closed doors. One investor told him to his face, "You're talented, but no one's going to trust security software made by an ex-felon. Ever." But the one thing prison taught Jalen better than code was persistence. In late 2018, Jalen released a free version of Gatelock on a niche developer forum. One user, a cybersecurity lead at a small regional bank, decided to test it on a dev server out of curiosity. Within hours, Gatelock flagged an active ransomware probe that none of their existing tools had caught. The breach was halted, $1.3 million in potential losses avoided. Word spread fast. The bank reached out and offered a $40,000 licensing deal. Jalen used the money to polish the UI, build a support site, and reinvest into marketing. Within 10 months, 3 more banks, a credit startup, and a healthcare clinic were using Gatelock. Then came the big break: a $2.4 million investment from a cybersecurity fund that had once ignored his emails. They changed their mind after their own system was hit with a breach that Gatelock caught in passive monitoring mode. But Jalen's story wasn't just about money. While most founders obsessed over growth metrics and IPO potential, he was quietly building something else inside Gatelock. A hidden, anonymous watchdog module. It automatically scanned public sector networks, schools, libraries, clinics, and flagged major vulnerabilities, notifying admins without charging a dime. When asked about it during a Forbes interview, Jalen simply said, "When I was 15, I hacked into my school's server to prove how broken it was. They suspended me. I just want to protect the places no one else thinks are worth protecting." By 2023, Gatelock had been licensed by over 120 clients. Jalen was on the cover of Tech Edge, listed in Forbes 30 Under 30, and interviewed by podcasts and magazines across the country. In a twist of irony, his code was now being used by the same federal agencies that once imprisoned him. But he never forgot where he came from. Jalen launched Code Second Chance, a nonprofit coding boot camp for formerly incarcerated people. He hired ex-convicts as junior developers, trainers, and mentors, offering not just jobs, but dignity. He still lives in Detroit, drives a used Nissan, but when you walk into his office, there's one thing framed above his desk: the original arrest report. He says, "That paper put me in a cage. My code got me out." He was once the system's biggest risk. Now he's the reason it sleeps better at night.